Well, how about that? It is a victory Monday for the Patriots. Very literal sense. Not only did they win yesterday, players are off today. They are off tomorrow. We, however, on Pat's Interference, are not off today. But we are bringing back a classic. Andrew talks to himself and drinks alone. We have unofficially sponsoring today Troegs Oktoberfest Lager, because you got to squeeze in your last couple of Oktoberfest before we turn the page in the calendar. And who knows, all hell breaks loose. But for the meantime, Patriots are 2-6. I was last chatting on here with Doug Kai. We were in Foxborough, coming out of the locker room and all of the drama and all the brokenness and all the rumors and the staying out in London. No, they actually weren't staying out in London. Well, they might have. And going, I don't know how they can win this game, but they just can't lose 30-3. Well, of course they won. And they beat the Jets straight up, as we will get into here today. Because honestly, aside from the rivalry and the history and what it means for the Jet season, because now both the Patriots, who are actively rebuilding, and the Jets, who are all in to win the Super Bowl, both 2-6, is they beat them straight up. Like, this was a mano-a-mano, one-on-one kind of game. The deeper I dove into the film and wrote about it all today and studied the film and charts and the stats and the pressures and the personnel and the efficiency, blah, blah, blah. You know that's what we do here in a Film Monday. In addition, we will have a mega mailbag. We got to virtually every single question asked to me on Twitter today, including personal favorite in a while. Why am I the smartass of Boston sports media? Which me kind of like laughing there might have offered some confirmation to you. I would disagree. We'll get to that in a little bit later. In the meantime, offense, defense, game balls, handing out game balls for the first time in 6 weeks feels good. Plus, what would NFL film say? A staple segment here as we do Film Mondays every single week, win or lose. If you want to get to a Patriots game, first of all, tickets are available. Second of all, when you look for tickets, find them at Game Time. And that goes for the Patriots. It goes for the Celtics. It goes for the Bruins. It goes for any kind of concert or show you want to go to, because Game Time is 110% guarantee for the lowest price. And if you find a lower price elsewhere for tickets anywhere, they will guarantee you 110% of the difference for that lower price ticket. But when you go to Game Time, regardless, and you're searching around, it's all in pricing. There are no fees. There's no nothing. It's the event. It's the ticket you want and the pricing all right up front with Game Time picks, which filters out all of the fluff, only good deals, and saves you plenty of time for searching everywhere else. Because again, Game Time has the lowest price guarantee. So whether you want to go to the Patriots next game against the Rams coming up in a few weeks, or the Colts after that, they got the Bills, okay, Chargers later on, Christmas gift, who knows? Go to Game Time and download the app today. Use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account at Game Time and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. What time is it actually? No, time actually for a little rant as we get into, again, Pats 25, Jets 22. Because as I saw on Twitter, and we all await, first of all, word about Drake May and his concussion, which right up front, I have no intel on right now. Still waiting to hear back. I don't expect this to be anything crazy or outside of the norm when it comes to concussions. You certainly hope not. Fingers crossed. History would indicate he'll probably miss a game. Maybe he doesn't. Bottom line is just wait and see. But in the meantime, I see on the increasingly reasonable Twitter, folks who are debating whether or not the Patriots beating the Jets as 7-point home underdogs was a good thing. Because, of course, draft position. And this is where we take our first swig of the night. Well, folks, in 2 months, there will be no football, okay? The Patriots season will be over. They're not going to the playoffs. You know what will take longer than 2 months to roll around? That will be the draft. And you know what beats the draft, if we're being perfectly honest? A win like this on Sunday. Ugly as it was, Drake May leaving. You beat the Jets. You know what happened right away. And it was, if you're a Patriots fan, spectacular. Not just because it was an upset, not because you were an underdog. It was because you watched your rival season implode, end at your hands in your stadium in your first comeback win in the last minute since 2017, all on a Sunday in October. Meanwhile, some folks with more than half a season to go are eyeing out in the distance. Oh, what is this going to mean for April? Who cares? They play to win the game. You watch to see them win the game. That's it. And even if the draft rolls around, you get your favorite pick or player or whomever, I don't know. That's not going to be as good as what just happened on Sunday because you don't know if that player will pan out. I won't know. Same as we saw last April. I felt great about Drake May. Look, he's played a few games. He's looked fantastic. I think the Patriots have their quarterback of the future, but I don't know. What I do know is They just stuck it to the Jets in a way that you absolutely loved at home. And that's what all this is for. The playing of the football games, not drafting of the players, not any trades. It's for the games themselves. So while as long as we have these games, I am telling you, sit at home, have a beer like I am right now, and enjoy them because soon enough, they're going to be gone. And don't forget last year, right? The Patriots obviously needed a quarterback. They needed a top 5 pick. And they go into Pittsburgh on a Thursday night, and they win. And everyone goes, oh my God, the draft positioning. And we were having those conversations here in the podcast. Was this a good thing? Was it not? Well, they won. Good for them. Christmas Eve, go to Denver. Oh my God, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. Chad Ryland actually hits his first game-winning field goal. Now he has 3 suddenly in Arizona. And everyone's going, they blew it. This is a 3-quarterback draft. You're not going to have a top 3 pick. Yeah, they've got multiple games to go left. They'll probably lose to the Bills and Jets, but they're not going to get a top 3 pick. Well, they did. Because even that close to the draft, that close to the end of the season, nobody knows anything. So you can play the odds. But I wouldn't, especially with more than half a season to go, because this team doesn't need a quarterback, as I believe it right now. What they need is to win and to build a culture that a week ago we're all doubting, and I'm telling you is cracking based on the things I'm hearing from players on the record and from people within the organization off the record. What they need to do is fill those cracks and patch things up and win in a way that they did on Sunday. That's what we're here for. The football, not the walk across the stage and the hug from Roger Goodell. So just wait, chill, enjoy. Okay, speaking of football, the Jets suck. Look, I talk about the Patriots beating them straight up. Here's how it went down on defense. Years ago, the Patriots played Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, but it was 2018. It was a Sunday night game. They played Green Bay. And I remember watching that game my first year on the beat going, wow, they really just said, okay, beat us. And it was easier then, right? You had Steph Gilmore, you had Devin McCourty, Jason McCourty, young J.C. Jackson, better secondary. But what they did was say, we're going to play man coverage basically the entire night. And you know what the Patriots did on Sunday without Steph Gilmore or Devin McCourty in his prime or young J.C. Jackson? They did the same thing. They played their highest rate of man coverage in this game, over 60% of snaps. And they didn't blitz Rodgers once. They said, you have to beat us. And of course, they came close. I mean, the Patriots won in a game-winning drive at the last minute of the game. But it worked out, and that Rodgers completed 50% of his passes versus man-to-man coverage and finished 4 of 9 with a sack against man-to-man coverage, while the Patriots knew he was going to pick on Marcus Jones. Okay, flip the coin. Offensively, it's a run-heavy script. Patriots ran the ball on 60% of their first downs. They said, hey, you got to stop us. And the Jets are like, okay, cool. But then as the Patriots continued to go on and, of course, got to 4th and goal at the 1 and ran the ball again, they got that yard. They got that touchdown. They won the game. And before that, as they're marching on this final drive, you talk about beating straight up, mano-a-mano, blitzing, man coverage, or just I have to block you here in the trenches. The Jets are blitzing Jacoby Brissett on that final drive as many times as they had in the entire game to that point combined. 4 blitzes for Jacoby Brissett before that final drive, 4 blitzes against Jacoby Brissett in that final drive. He says, okay, 14-yard scramble going right by Hassan Reddick, who rushed behind him, as Bill Belichick was very quick to note today. No words about Gerard Mayo, but hey, he talked about the Patriots after a win. That's progress for Bill. And after that, the 34-yarder to Kayshon Boutte, which thank God he held on to. Otherwise, the Patriots might have traded Josh Uche, who, of course, we're going to get to, along with Boutte and half of the receivers against it. He makes an adjustment. It was a great play. But in other instances, the Jets saying, okay, you want to play one-on-one? So can we. And the Patriots said, yeah, we get that you're more talented. We get that you've got all these Pro Bowlers and Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Oh, and there's Sauce Gardner and Hassan Reddick's back. We're going to beat you anyway. And that's what this game was about. Yes, we understand that it confirmed their toughness, right? They're not a soft football team. They allow 4 yards per carry. They didn't rush for that many. And special teams was basically a draw aside from some missed field goals, which were very big. Don't get me wrong. The Jets screwed this up with those missed kicks and the 8 penalties. But the best part about this was for the Patriots, in addition to the win, it was how they closed. Without Drake May, playing straight up on offense and defense and said, lock it up, buckle your chin strap, 4th and 1, here we go. And they got it. And the Jets didn't. And it's great the Jets have all that talent. You know what else they have? The same freaking record as the Patriots, and that's what this game boiled down to. But speaking of Drake May, he goes 3 of 6, 23 yards, 46 rushing yards. We'll just stick to offense here. We'll get back to defense and then do game balls and what would NFL film say before your mailbag. Look, it's impossible to know how he would have played had he not been removed with that concussion around at the end of the first quarter, start of the second. But what's not up for debate is how well he played in that first quarter plus. Okay. He was accurate on 5 of 6 passes. He saw the field very clearly. He ends up leading them in rushing, I believe. We're just coming close to it. Let's see. We got this right here. Okay. Just behind Reminder Stevenson. He had 17 fewer carries and only 2 fewer yards. But those 46 rushing yards were an instant antidote to what the Jets wanted to do in this game, which is the same they did in week 3, which was a lot of man blitz pressure. Okay, well, man blitz is a good idea when the Patriots have a team like they do. The receivers stink. The offensive linemen don't hold up very well one-on-one in pass protection. But if the quarterback's mobile, he'll kill you, which he did. And it wasn't only when the Jets were blitzing. It was sometimes just when they were playing man-to-man coverage, like on the 17-yard touchdown that they had. So it wasn't just that. It was the way that he was decisive. You saw that beautiful pinpoint deep ball to Tyquan Thornton, who pulled to Tyquan Thornton and just dropped it out of bounds. So this was a guy who was beating that defense with his arm and his legs. He was seeing the field clearly, and it helps that he's seen the same style of defense, the Jets in week 3, Houston in his starting debut, even the Niners when he was preparing for them before that, and most of this season. It's the same family of defenses. But Drake was great. Again, just a quarter. That's all we have. 2 games and basically 1 quarter, but very encouraging here from Drake May. Jacoby Brissett, 15 to 24, 132 yards, 11 rushing yards. Does that sound like a Jacoby Brissett stat line to you? Because it certainly does to me, and that's exactly what it was. And the interesting part about this not only was, how the Patriots offense changed when it went from May to Brissett, which we could see, in a 5-game sample when Brissett loses the job, hands it to Drake May in week 6. Though you have a lot of, I don't want to say like interfering variables there, but you have an offensive line that's in flux, an identity the Patriots still trying to determine and work out. But the bottom line here was you could see very clearly in the play calling of Alex Van Pelt of how he felt about what he could do when Drake May was in the game, when they had a 50-50 run-pass split on first down versus what he could do with Jacoby Brissett, which is when that run rate skyrocketed to 76%, meaning he's taking the ball out of Brissett's hands. He's saying, we just need to get small chunks. Okay, we can't get explosive plays. Patriots were 31st, meaning second worst in the entire league in explosive plays generated when passing the ball in the first 5 weeks. Yes, it had a lot to do with protection. It was also on Jacoby Brissett. So anyway, Brissett comes in the game. He completes just 2 passes longer than 10 yards downfield. There was a drop in there, of course. But the thing that stuck out, of course, was at the end. That toughness, that wherewithal. Because as the Jets go from, okay, we're going to blitz a little bit more, to now we're blitzing the hell out of you on this final drive. He's not only IDing it, scrambling to convert a 3rd and long, 14 yards, and then after that, converting another 3rd and long by hanging in the pocket and taking a hit to find booty downfield. He's doing all this under the pressure of a 2-minute drill. And really, you feel like a must-win situation for the locker room. It was a must-win for the Jets if they want to make the playoffs. They're not, they lost. But that's what the Patriots need, and Jacoby Brissett gave it to him. Now, around that, of course, he had a botched handoff the drive before, deep in the red zone. He had, I think, a couple predetermined reads, which is not always a bad thing, right? Like you're picking on matchups. It's really about, was the process sound post-snap when you'll go, okay, I'm going to throw to Kendrick Bourne on this corner route. It's a very common red zone concept. It's called smash. You have either a short in route on the outside, a little curl, and then the slot, in this case, Bourne runs a corner. Is that my best option? Because Bourne was covered, as we saw in the incompletion before the Patriots kicked the field goal on their last drive, before their last drive, so their penultimate drive. Well, you had a receiver open on the right side. 2 plays before that, he's trying to force the ball to Austin Hooper. KJ Osborne's coming open down the seam like we saw for that 1 touchdown he had against Jacksonville the week before, and Brissett just locks in on Hooper, locks in on Bourne. Conceptually, that might have been the right call, but in both cases, those guys were covered. You got to move on. Anyway, that's Jacoby Brissett, 60% completion percentage, but he gets that drive at the end. He engineers what you need, beats the blitz, does it with his arm, with his legs. You got to tip your hat to a guy, especially just lost his job a couple of weeks ago. That's enough on Jacoby Brissett. As far as the rest of the offense, in case you missed it, this was the first time the Patriots offensive line had the same starting lineup as a previous game. Okay, they're not making their debut all together. And from left to right, it went Vidarian Lowe, Michael Jordan, Ben Brown at center, Mike Onwenu at right guard, and Amontre Jacobs at right tackle. And that's important, not just because Vidarian Lowe everyone's new favorite offensive tackle, who would have been tarred and feathered given the chance anywhere in New England last year at the start of the season, is back, and that's a good thing. It also allows Mike Onwenu to go back to his best position at right guard, and DeMontre Jacobs, a second-year NFL player who spent most of college at right tackle and has since done a little bit of both in the league, back to his best position too, which is right tackle. And so overall, this was the first game that I charted where you didn't have one guy who was kind of screwing it up for everybody else. And the worst of them was Ben Brown, who gave up both sacks, 4 total pressures at center. But a guy who, again, less than 2 weeks ago is coming in on a red eye to start for a team at center. I'm going to give him a little bit more runway than most players. Aside from him, Lowe gave up 3 pressures. Jacobs only had 1. Jordan only had 1, plus a holding penalty. And the team had a hurry. You'll notice missing among that group, finally, is Mike Onwenu. And I don't think it's an accident that him going back to guard and trusting someone to play next to him at right tackle happened at the same time that he finally has one of his best pass protecting games of the season. Now, run blocking, this was an issue. This was like a complete reversal from the start of the season when we're talking here. Hey, the offensive line, we can't broad brush as being good or bad or terrible. You need to separate. Pass protection, downright awful. Run blocking, pretty good. Flip-flop. Ramondre Stevenson averaged, let's pull it up again here, 2.4 yards per carry. According to Pro Football Focus, he had 2.95 yards per carry after contact. So this guy's getting hit in the backfield and creating, again, yards on his own. He forced 7 missed tackles. Drake May had 4, by the way. So this is still an offensive line that's getting more continuity. It's better in pass protection. You'll take the 30% pressure rate, honestly, because A, it's your lowest of the season. It's still just below average, but tenable. You just need to bring the run blocking back because the overall game plan here for the Patriots was really just to get back to their roots. I talk about Van Pelt changing his play calling on first down when Brissett came into the game after May. Well, in that first quarter with May, they had 12 of 17 snaps with multiple backs or tight ends. And the backs comes with like a little asterisk because Lacita Smith, their extra offensive lineman, who was at fullback for a handful of plays, was part of that opening play. They're just saying, hey, we're getting back to our roots. It's not just running the ball, but it's running with big personnel. And when we're going to throw, it's going to be off of play action because just under half of Drake May's pass attempts came off of play action. I should say dropbacks, not pass attempts, because he scrambled a couple times. But the point being, that's the offense that we knew Van Pelt was going to bring to New England. They haven't been able to fully enact it because the offensive line struggles and everything that affects, not to mention they weren't playing with the quarterback they wanted to play with all along, a guy with a rocket arm, some mobility who can roll out and execute these staple play action throws, which we still haven't seen a ton from Drake May. Their play action rate has been below 20%, I think, every single game, which is way below for this style of offense. But the point being, they're starting to get to that identity finally. Was it successful? No. Again, you average in designed handoffs about 2 yards per carry. Not good, but Drake May's ability to extend plays, scramble, run for touchdowns, create something out of nothing is what's going to carry this offense until they get either better pass protection or better receivers, which, as we all know, probably not going to happen until the offseason. Last couple of notes here. The receivers. Whew! Man, if it were not for Kayshon Boutte making that catch, an adjustment on an underthrown ball from Jacoby Brissett, these dudes, I talked about tar and feather earlier as a joke. I don't know, man. These are wild times. The receivers combined had as many catches as drops till late in the fourth quarter. It was 4-4. Bourne had 2. Tyquan Thornton had 1 in the first quarter. Kayshon Boutte also had a drop. And you didn't see Javon Baker in offense, so he was on special teams. This was just as rough as it gets. So I said last week, multiple times, I do not want to hear from this group complaining about not getting the ball enough, not being aggressive. Catch the ball and get open because you're not getting open, and now you're not catching the ball. You have a lot of catching up to do, which isn't to say there aren't gripes about the offense, the protection, the quarterback play, or even your coaching. Tyler Hughes was the last guy hired to this offensive staff, the Patriots receivers coach. But Hunter Henry had a team-high 2 catches against man-to-man coverage. He doesn't separate, okay? So if he's leading the team in catches against man-to-man, a guy who does not separate, and you can't beat him out, including Demario Douglas, you have work to do. That's the last point we would say here. All right, let's get to the defense. I mentioned it off the top. This was a simple plan, and they did copy from 2018, which talked to guys in the locker room afterward and said, hey, did you watch any It's going to sound obscure. This is exactly how I said it. An old game. Aaron Rodgers was still with the Packers. He was playing the Patriots. Sunday, any of that ringing a bell? Yeah, we pulled that up. And what they told me after that was that the coaches had pulled up that film not because it worked. The Patriots won 31-17. And Devontae Adams was on that team, and he was his go-to guy. It was to say that we watched that game because the coaches wanted to express to us, as long as Aaron Rodgers has been in the league, a member of the 2005, think about where you were in 2005, the 2005 NFL draft, he's still doing the same stuff, okay? He's an old dog with the same tricks that can be used to our benefit if we get lucky enough. And the point was, okay, he is so loyal to his favorite targets and the idea of playing matchups. Generally a good idea. Play NFL football or just in the backyard, throw it to the fastest dude, the biggest dude, or ideally the biggest and fastest dude. But when he knows we're playing man-to-man coverage, because that's what we're doing this week, he's going to go repeatedly to Garrett Wilson, and he's going to do so deep. So the Patriots knew, okay, we can't clone Christian Gonzalez, but we'll put Christian Gonzalez and Devontae Adams, erase him. Gonzalez will have 0 catches in one-on-one coverage. That's going to leave Marcus Jones against Garrett Wilson. And Garrett Wilson ate him up for 113 yards on 5 catches, plus a couple of defensive pass interference penalties. Not good. But what also happened is Rodgers missed facing this man coverage on 2/3 of their coverage snaps without a single blitz. The only blitz that the Patriots sent, because you have a single high safety typically back here, along with some low robber and wrap players, was on the 2-point conversion after the Packers, Patriots, Jesus. The Jets took a delay of game. So that was their plan. And they knew he's going to go deep to Wilson. And these are low percentage plays. So over time, he might hit some, as he did in the first half. But over time, we're going to win because he's going to bet on himself. He's going to bet on his favorite receivers. And we get that generally that sounds like a good offensive idea, but this is the best idea we have because we're playing without Kyle Duggar. We're playing with a suspect run defense, which forced them to play base defense, meaning old school 3-4. Okay. It's a slow group. Okay. We're going to bet in this working over time. And you know what? It did just enough. Rodgers finished 4 of 9 against man coverage in the second half for 73 yards and a sack. And so the Patriots did rush Christian Ellis when obviously he got that sack from Aaron Rodgers. They also had Keon White 5 yards deep and coming in with a head full of steam to rush in the middle, actually drew a double team that freed Christian Ellis, but they never sent 5 or more rushers intentionally, especially not in passing downs. There were 2 others, I think, early down play action passes that the Jets had. I'm like, okay, I think you can really count this as 5 rushers, even though the edges are supposed to be dropping, but they're engaged in case it's a run. And that was the plan. And in addition to firing at Garrett Wilson at will, but downfield, because these are slot fades, right? So he's starting in the slot, it angles towards the sideline. These are deep throws. They're just low percentage throws. And over time, that percentage is going to drop. Rodgers looked for Breece Hall, who caught 1 of 3 targets, and Tyler Conklin, okay, who did catch a touchdown, and Jalen Hawkins, but it was just a freaking great throw. But look, when you're the Patriots and you look at their roster and their options schematically, you got to make hard choices. This was the choice they made. I think it was a good one. And when you're able to steal from old film and say, hey, guys, this worked. And we know Steph Gilmore's not here and Devin McCourty's not here, but we trust you to do your job. And Christian Gonzalez plays as well as Steph Gilmore did that Sunday night in 2018 against Green Bay and Rodgers and Adams. You got to tip your cap. I think this was a daring plan. It worked. They played one-on-one. And again, Rodgers completed 50% of his passes against man-to-man coverage. All of Devontae Adams' catches were against zone. That says what you need to know. As far as pressure, though, the Patriots got some pass rush. Here's who you should credit. Keon White had quarterback hit, 2 hurries. Jaquelin Roy, rough day in run defense, mostly because I don't think is suited well for this scheme, but he had 2 hurries. Christian Ellis had the sack. Devon Gotcha had a QB hit. Anthony Jennings, QB hit. Jelani Tavai had a hurry. And the other part about this game, in addition to we're going to play a ton of man-to-man, we're going to play a little bit heavier to stop the run, and the Jets only average 4 yards a carry, so not such a soft defense after all, is the Patriots played much better from a tackling standpoint. Gonzalez missed 2, Jalen Hawkins missed 2, and that was it. So even though the Jets finished with a success rate of over 50%, meaning more than half of their plays, they're staying on schedule, and more than out of 1 of every 10 plays was an explosive, not good, they did enough to win. Not a shutdown performance, but when you consider the talent where they were coming from, getting steamrolled by the Jaguars, this was good enough. That spoke to tackling. It spoke to much better play in the edge. Keon White, Anthony Jennings, Dietrich Wise all played solid. Defensive tackles, it was Roy. It was Gottschall, Eric Johnson. I think that's something they're just going to live with. But at the second level, you don't have to live with the linebacker play that they got against Jacksonville, which was horrendous. What they got against the Jets, much better. Not just because Christian Ellis had 9 tackles and a sack and a pass breakup. The sack and pass breakup both coming on third down, 2 forced Jets punt. Jelani Tavai played on the edge. He didn't miss a single tackle, and he fit the run in a way that was disciplined and patient and sound. These are not great linebackers, but this was much, 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 much better than what we saw against the Jaguars. That's why you had a chance. It's not dominant. It's not great. These are not core pieces suddenly, but we can appreciate better play when we see it because the Patriots played so much worse than they could have in London. That changed here against the Jets. I mentioned Jalen Hawkins. So he has to fill in for Kyle Duggar along with Marte Mapu and Del Pettis, the undrafted rookie. And Pettis and Mapu played a little bit more in the box than Jalen Hawkins did, who played single high. And this is important because, again, you're playing man-to-man coverage. You just have one line of defense back there. And so a lot of the routes that Jets were running were away from that safety, but sometimes there were doubles of Adams and sometimes there were not. But you needed to be able to fit the run from 3 safety personnel. So when Mapu and Del Pettis more often were not in the box compared to Jalen Hawkins, they held up and they held their own. Again, neither of them missed a tackle. That's huge. Jonathan Jones also moonlighted and played a little bit of safety here and helped out with some of those doubles. Only 30 snaps for him, by the way, because Marcus Jones replaced him at outside corner. So some of that is the unseen communication, coordination, having the right leverage, because so often, even if Rodgers is not making these downfield throws, as the Patriots are daring him to make time and time again, the way that he used to, you still have to be in position to discourage them or just make it a little tougher for him than he would think. They did that. And that's why they got game balls in the locker room from Gerard Mayo. Speaking about Jalen Hawkins, Del Pettis, who am I missing here? Marte Mapu. Last thing, I don't know if I have a last thing. Yeah, I really don't. Marcus Jones, again, took his medicine. We can talk about, this is such a genius plan. Garrett Wilson go for 113 yards. I mean, that all came at Marcus Jones' expense. 5 catches, 2 flags. But I will say he hung in there. Mentally tough kid, given a very tough responsibility. And I think the Jets, if they were allowed to do it over again, would continue to throw in Marcus Jones from Garrett Wilson. But ultimately, it was not the matchup as much as the throws that they knew Rodgers was going to take at that matchup. If enough of them fell incomplete, they could do enough to force them to have a scoreless drives on more than half of their possessions, which is exactly what the Jets did, and the Patriots win. Okay, time for game balls. Christian Gonzalez, look, you give up 0 catches in man-to-man coverage, which again, 2/3 of the time, that's what you're playing. That's a number 1 corner. Great game from Christian Gonzalez against Devontae Adams. So, okay, it's not the Devontae Adams of 3-4 years ago. That's fine. He's still a guy that they just traded to change their offense, to change their team. And he did nothing of the sort Sunday against the Patriots. Hunter Henry, only 5 catches, just 6 targets, 45 yards. But you remember some of those catches. One was a 12-yarder on 3rd down early in that final possession. He had others against man coverage. He just has the trust of the quarterback, whether it's Drake May or Jacoby Brissett. And he's playing his ass off in a way that, okay, he's a professional. He just got $27 million for 3 years over the offseason. He's a captain. He should. You don't see that from everybody. You haven't even seen that from every captain to come through the Patriots the last 3 or 4 years. He's a guy you want having your back, and he has everyone's back, whether they're run blocking, whether he's going downfield, playing on 3rd down, playing from behind, making these giant catches in London over the middle of the field that are really just prayers from Drake May. Hunter Henry's coming down with those. He's doing it in big spots. Hat tip to him. Last one, Christian Ellis. Look, he had a bad starting debut. Okay, guy came over, just special teams meetings only a year ago. Now playing defense, not really fitting the run, just trying to feel things out. Told me that Dante Hightower and Gerard Mayo have told him, hey, you can't, and I can relate, overthink this. You just got to go. You got to react. You got to play. You got to get out of your own head. He did that in a big way. In coverage, overcame that early penalty, getting some pass rush, fitting the run. Really, really, really good game for Christian Ellis, who is finally, at least for one game, we're not going to project, that athletic linebacker that everyone's been calling for in New England for God knows how long. He might be here. It might not be a long stay, but Christian Ellis is here. All right, what would NFL Films say then, mailbag? So NFL Films, as we talked about, I think the last 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of this fictitious hour-long documentary documenting, of course, the Patriots season, just goes very quickly over a lot of these losses because they've been miserable. They sink their best people, everything into this game. A, because of the rivalry, Pats Jets, right? B, because of the stakes, the star power with Aaron Rodgers. And so you get it starts on the heels in the Mayo comment. Soft, how would the Patriots respond? Well, boom, Drake May, that 17-yard touchdown. 20 miles an hour, by the way, according to the Next Gen Stats. The last quarterback to run 20 miles an hour in a game, Jacoby Brissett, 2016. You would think it would be longer and not the slow-footed guy he just replaced, but true story, it was rookie Jacoby Brissett. Anyway, they replay that 4 or 5 different times. You get the TV call, you get the radio call, Patriots up 7-0. But then it goes straight to another scramble, and it's May getting hit from the back of the head. You have a quiet stadium. You have a quiet, if Zoe was quiet, which God knows that might not ever happen. But if he is, the seriousness, the gravity of losing Drake May, and again, you had started well, you would come back home. You haven't won at home in more than a calendar year, just hits very over the head. So here comes Jacoby Brissett. You get a little redemptive arc, but the Jets aren't done with you yet because they've got to score, and they do, coming back in response, running over you. Rodgers throws a touchdown, then throws another one. What are we going to do? Well, the Patriots get a little pickup from Marcus Jones, who has that 62-yard return in the third quarter after a 3 now. And there's a little bit of flashback to 2 years ago. Marcus Jones knocked the Jets out with the punt return touchdown in the last minute. Well, anyway, Jacoby Brissett hands the ball off. Ramondre Stevenson goes in for his first touchdown. You've got back and forth. Okay. Christian Gonzalez is mic'd up. You get a little bit of something from him. And of course, it comes down to Rodgers handing the ball off for that go-ahead touchdown under 3 minutes left. And what are the Patriots going to do? Gut check time. And of course, there's some sort of cliche or there's some sort of line that just really gets you to, you know how this game is going to end. You're on the edge of their seat because this is what NFL Films does. And you get Jacoby Brissett to Hunter Henry. Then you get Jacoby Brissett with the scramble. Then the big throw to Booty, which has that long camera angle. It's low. You've seen this before. The ball spiraling slowly down, descending through the air, lands softly in Kayshon Boutte, who slides, makes the catch, and then everything speeds up. And you get to the goal line, and everyone's locked in. You get the slow-mo. Mayo's looking on. Everyone on the sideline. Someone from the Jets who's just got like a towel over their head or just something hiding behind their hands because you know that that's how all of these go. Hand it off to Stevenson. The Bob Sosey call takes us home. Across the goal line, survives the review. Boom, there it is. Patriots get their first win at home in more than a year. Get their first comeback win in the final minute since 2017, end the losing streak, end the Jets season. You get comments from players afterward, maybe a little Aaron Rodgers darkness, whatever happened over there. And it's just, this is what NFL Films was made for. Speaking as someone who, as a kid, wore the hell out of a VHS of the Patriots 1995 unfinished business VHS in that hour-long documentary of that season. Actually, it might have been a half hour, but felt like it went even a little bit longer. Speaking of going longer, before we get to the mailbag, I have to remind you, because, yes, the Patriots won on Sunday, but it is no guarantee they're going to win this weekend in Tennessee, even though it is Tennessee. But you can win on your own with the Patriots, without them, if you play Prize Picks. This is America's #1 daily fantasy sports game, and it is the best and the realest way to win money this season. Which players are going off? Are they on your fantasy team? Or the guys that you're facing? Or maybe they're playing the NBA or in the NHL. Whatever it is, if you go to Prize Picks, all you have to do is pick up a couple of players and certain stat projections. And whether it's passing yards or touchdowns or points, you just line them up and go more or less. And that's it. And you take your takes and put them into cash all season long. You can win up to 100 times your money if you make as few as 4 correct picks, going more or less. And I hand out a couple at the end of every week. Some of you wisely have taken an extensive approach of doing the opposite. I say that would have won you some money this season. But either way, if you sign up for Prize Picks today, you get $50 instantly in bonus when you play your first $5 deposit. You don't even need to win that $5 deposit to get a $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get that $50 instantly. Code CLNS after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. So the mailbag, all-encompassing. I have postponed the Josh Uche conversation. He was traded this afternoon for a 2026 6th-round pick. Instant analysis comes in from Bill Belichick saying, oh, it's not enough. The Chiefs basically gave up nothing. And people who do okay, if this is a future pick, you devalue it by a year. So what this really is a 2025 7th. I don't totally disagree, but it's common enough that you just kind of have to accept it. To that, I would say, well, the Patriots are in this hole because you didn't trade Josh Uche a year ago when he wasn't playing and his value was even higher. And in both instances, he was cheap and at the end of his contract. So if you wanted a 5th-round pick, you could have done it, and you didn't. Which sounds petty and punitive to Bill, but like that's just the reality of the situation. Now, I will say this too. It was lower than I expected. So if you're disappointed at home, I get that. I would also say the league knows, according to reports, Patriots are open for business. So there's no world in which I believe someone comes out and be like, oh, we would have given you a 5th. No, Josh Uche has 20 and a half career sacks. More than half of those sacks over 4.5 years came in one season, opposite a Pro Bowl career year from Matthew Judon. And in games, which we documented here, doing all the Film Mondays in 2022, were against the Cardinals and the Colts. I think there was a Bills game in there, like bad offensive lines. So this isn't to knock Josh Uche. It was a ton of natural talent. We'll answer the first question from Thomas. How big of a loss is Josh Uche? He was a healthy scratch Sunday because of the trade deadline. You don't want to injure this guy that you're about to deal. But if they had made him a healthy scratch, separate from the trade deadline, if this was 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have been totally shocked. I mean, the production is what it is. Like on a per snap basis, that's great. But this is a classic case of the eye test not whatsoever meeting up with the metrics. And I'm a metrics guy, all for analytics, to the point some people are calling me the C word on Twitter last week doing radio for citing them. But with Uche, how much did you see him drive winning, get a sack in the fourth quarter of a close game? Or was this cleanup duty like we saw a lot in 2022? I also think there's something to be said for him just not being in the right system. So he's a talented player. I wouldn't be surprised if Casey unlocks him a little bit in a way that we just haven't seen the last few years. And by the way, it's also not just sacks. It's quarterback hits. You can look this up for yourself. 2022 was a complete anomaly from 2020, 2021, 2023, and here we are in 2024. So I wish it worked out. I liked chatting with Joshua a lot, but I just don't think it's that big of a deal. The Patriots still have a 4-man pass rush problem, whether he was here or not. So they'll take the pick. They'll probably take another pick in a trade upcoming, which brings us to the next question. From built to last, what message does it send to the team that they're focused on winning and getting better every week, meaning coaches and players? But the front office trades your second best pass rusher for a measly 6th-round pick to a division foe. Okay, so not a division foe. Chiefs are in the same conference, but they're not in the AFC East. And I would say by now, I think the guys get it in the locker room and certainly on the coaching staff. The coaching staff knows this because Elliot Wolf has told me this in person that, hey, yeah, we've conveyed to the coaching staff. We want you to play younger players as the season goes on. They want to get younger. They want to develop them. Gerard said this on the eve of training camp. We're developing guys to find a foundation. So the players in that locker room go, okay, even if I thought I'm going to prove you wrong, we're going to win enough games where you change your mind. Well, that time is coming. You're 2-6. So they know what they either signed up for or are part of now. It's a new regime. That's not lost in them. They want to play, don't get me wrong. But Jaheim Bell, 7th-round rookie tight end, played 8 offensive snaps on Sunday. There was no real reason for Jaheim Bell to play 8 offensive snaps, particularly as a run blocker, which is mostly what he was doing. But he was out there anyway because we're entering this new phase, I believe, of the Patriots prioritizing that development in a little bit more obvious way. Javon Baker, we talked about it. He got a kick return. I'm sure I'm forgetting a day or a practice, but I don't remember Javon Baker returning kicks in training camp. But they feel compelled to get him involved, keep him engaged. That was their way to do it because now you're seeing that be a little bit more obvious. Hey, we're here to develop the kids, and they're starting to do that. So that's what it is. Ed, who else might be purged from the Patriots roster prior to the NFL trade deadline? Ed, that's a little dark, but you're a loyal listener, so we appreciate you, and we'll skip over the word choice. A few names, 3 of them: Kendrick Bourne, KJ Osborne, Jonathan Jones. Now, the conversation around the trade deadline is a little bit more complicated, in my opinion, and I've heard this in chatting with people close to or within the team, is that leadership has to factor in now because of things that have been unforeseen, namely losing David Andrews and Juwan Belly to injury, Jabril Peppers to his arrest and legal situation. So there's a void here that you need to fill in a real day-to-day way, leading by example and obviously by word, for those young players to develop, but do it on the right track. So if those guys are out of the picture, Andrews, Bentley, Peppers, who's going to step in and do that? And if you trade Bourne, who had the best comments of any Patriots receiver probably this season in explaining what they need to do to grow up, basically, and what he meant, clarifying his comments to me about saying, yeah, guys need to make better personal decisions. If you trade him, you lose a potential leader. Osborne, I think, has lower stock, and we're talking like maybe a 6 for Kendrick, conditional 7th for Osborne, who was much better in Minnesota, but playing with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen before he got bad, and Jordan Addison. But like Osborne's not fetching much, and the last one being Jonathan Jones. He is that leader now. Like he broke them down in the locker room after Sunday's game, and in Jacksonville, reamed the team out, saying you basically have to man up. So that's the caveat. Is that I think on paper you'd go, okay, Jonathan Jones plays a premium position, starting caliber player, smart, value. There are a lot of ex-Patriots coaches. We'll ship him off. We'll get a 5th or 6th. Kendrick Bourne, same deal. Anyone who's in San Francisco right now or has been elsewhere or had been there and gone elsewhere, they'll be interested in him. Plays in a West Coast system. He's ready to go. I don't know if the Patriots are – I know they're open for business, again, as has been reported, but I think there's a little bit more hesitancy based on what's gone on the last few weeks, and I think they should be hesitant. I know I've answered this person's questions before, and I think it's non sequitur of burnt ships that have been burnt, still sitting there, though, supposedly. Quote, with our wide receivers dropping so many balls, have the Patriots explored trading for Deontay Johnson at all? This I don't know, but I would say this. It's important to remember the Patriots just invested 2 top 100 picks, or close to it, in receivers. They want Jalen Polk to play. He was out on Sunday with a concussion. Javon Baker is going to be in the mix. And Javon Baker just might bust out, might be too immature and never get his act together. I don't know. I hope that's not the case. But you would also think by now he would have played a little bit. He hasn't. They're here, okay? Bourne, obviously, we just talked about. And some of these guys could be traded or could be gone. Demario Douglas is here. But those are 3 receivers, young receivers, Douglas, Polk, and Baker, that they're invested in. So if you bring in Deontay Johnson, yeah, he might be a temporary upgrade. But if they think Polk is going to be better than Johnson long-term, that's part of their calculus. You don't want him to get in the way of those 3 kids. No, I would say make Baker prove it. I don't know. But it's a little more complicated with the long-term vision than if you and I were just playing Madden or just having a beer like I am right now to say, yeah, get him. He makes him better. So I could see this going either way. Have they had talks definitively? I don't know. But I am positive the Panthers are talking to multiple teams before they sell off Johnson because they just don't have any more assets. They're much like the Patriots right now, just in the NFC, and a little more disorganized. Lawrence, hey, Andrew, would you hold out May this week? Titans have the number 1 defense. I think he says per yards per game. I'd have to double check that. I know they gave up 52 yesterday, 52 points, but 5 of the Lions' touchdown drives started on Tennessee's 26-yard line or closer. Lawrence doing his research. May's situation is entirely tied to health for me. And if you've been listening, I've been on the record, yes, as someone who's sit May, wait, I'm not in a rush. But my ideal timeline was right where we are now. Middle of the season, you figured out what you have on offense, what you don't, how you're going to problem solve. And we see the Patriots are doing that. They just gave up their lowest pressure rate of the season to a Jets defense that, it was a little bit banged up, but still has Quinnen Williams. Okay. So if May is recovered from his concussion, play him. If not, we'll wait. Jordan, quote, we're seeing a lot of rookie receivers have immediate impacts on their teams, including players like Lad McConkey, a good lad, McConkey. They could have been drafted by the Pats with their 2nd-round pick. Is it fair to already second-guess Wolf on taking Polk and Baker? Sure. I don't know. Like I liked Lad McConkey more than either of those players in the first place. Am I going to throw a small parade in my neighborhood saying, I told you so? No. It's 8 weeks into the season. And I know you're not suggesting that. I'm being a little facetious and dramatic. The point is, it's so early. And the Patriots situation we know is not really conducive to development, let alone evaluation. So it's hard to wait and see because Lad McConkey's also playing in an offense where he's basically the featured guy and he has a top 5 quarterback. Okay, that's not the case for Polk or Baker right now with the quarterback or being featured that heavily. So I would just say wait, but I'm of the belief they would have been better off with Lad McConkey. Myself, there were some medical issues that I'll bring up. I think it was his back that scared off some teams. So that's something to just remember. If you happen to be one of the 4 people tuning in Chargers games outside of LA, and he goes off like he did this past weekend against the Saints. Renato, hey, Andrew, I'm a big fan from Brazil. We're international, baby. We're in Ireland, Denmark, England, Brazil. If you are from another country that I have not listed off, please reach out. I should get a little map as part of my background for YouTube just to represent. Anyway, from Renato, I was wondering if this game was the start of a shift for the Patriots' biggest needs, going from offensive tackle to maybe receivers and corners. A Travis Hunter pick feels better after this game. I would feel way better than having Ronnie Stanley at left tackle as well. Okay, I don't know what Ronnie Stanley's doing in that question, but I understand where you're coming from. That, okay, the offensive line is playing better. Pressure rate's down. Vidarian low. Maybe it doesn't suck. Not sucking is good. You need premium talent at premium positions. Patriots just invested a second-round pick in Jalen Polk. They clearly see him as a long-term starter, even though he has played like dog crap the last few weeks and dealing with, as Gerard Mayo described it, a mental hump. Hopefully he gets through that. I'm sure that's really happening. Let's all root for a bounce-back game for Jalen Polk. But ideally, Vidarian Lowe is your swing tackle. Like, I know it's been a while since the Patriots had two solid bookend tackles. Set it and forget it. Week one till the playoffs. These guys can block. I trust them. Put them on an island. That's it. But that's the goal, because that also unlocks all of these different protections that you can use, where if teams know, hey, they have to help the right tackle, they're going to be sliding right, they're going to be chipping, they're going to be doubling, we'll just send pressure the other way, or we'll pretend to overload that side and then actually bring it from the opposite one. So it's a personnel thing as much as schematically. I'll also say, when you have a good offensive line, that not only lifts your passing game because you get better protection, it's your whole running game. The running game is mostly predicated on how good is your offensive line and how many defenders are in the box. From then on, after those two factors have been decided, it's how many tackles can your running back miss, okay? How many tacklers can he break through, avoid, dodge, whatever. Stevenson's pretty good at that, but I would still have offensive tackle at the top. Receivers is very close, though. Like, both of these position groups are bottom 5, bottom 10 of the NFL. So I need to see a little bit more evidence from Lowe and DeMondre Jacobs, who is playing better. But either way, I would prefer those guys to be my number 3 and 4 tackles. And right now, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable saying Polk will eventually get to be a number 2, or Demario Douglas than the guys they have a tackle right now. All right, the last we have 2 more questions. Quote from Hate X, but I'd be bored. Why are you so passive aggressive? Love the content, but you are definitely the smart ass of Boston media content. Okay, so I'll be serious off the top, because I want you to know what I really think and feel. And we're 48 minutes into me talking to you and having a beer, and we're not going to be honest here and now. When would we be? Look, I approach my job looking to enrich, and that most always comes from education, from reporting or analysis, a combination of both, ideally. And then secondarily, doing TV or radio or this podcast, it's to entertain. And when you thread the needle, like, that's the sweet spot, man. You entertain while you educate. And it's not because I envision myself as like having a ruler or, whatever teachers are using nowadays to kind of like give a talk. But away from all of that is what I think you do get in a lot of other places, in actual traditional media, or just people who are being stupid on Twitter. And that's trolling or stirring people up or just getting some sort of attention. Okay, that's not my oxygen here. My oxygen is good work. I feel best when I feel like I've given you my best. And that's not measured in clicks. It's not measured in likes. It's just measured in the work and the input that I have with that. So for me, yeah, when the Patriots go 8-9 and there's a bunch of dysfunction and the coaching staff's a mess, and here's Matt Patricia and there's Joe Judge, I'm going to make a lot of calls to do my best to educate you and do this big expose with Karen Garrigan, with whom that would have been impossible to write 2 years ago, to tell you what the hell is going on. And then when the Patriots go 4-13 and it looks like this might be Bill Belichick's last season, first of all, that season was miserable for everybody. I'm going to go back in, put on my hazmat suit, make late night phone calls, dig in with Doug from late October all the way to the end of that season. And again, report the story that would have been impossible without him, and just try to figure out what the hell's going on. And it sucks that there's a lot of negativity that drives where companies losing, but that's what it is. And as far as like busting balls in the radio, like I have a lot of really good friends in media, and I'm very lucky that it's just, I think, a really good market. Now, when it comes to Felger, yeah, we can go back and forth on TV, but that's his style. That's his combativeness. And I'm not backing down from anybody. Okay. You want to go back and forth? That's it. But around all of that, like, we're going to have some fun. I would rather laugh about parts of a rebuild that we can. after sitting here for 10 hours and going through the film and writing it up and having the GIFs and the clips and the breakdowns and yada, yada. Like, that's where I come from. So it's not to make fun of everybody. It's not to troll. It's not for any kind of attention. Like, you know, I tell people who ask me all the time in sports journalism, this answer's gone way too long, way too serious than maybe it should have been. I say you have to do one thing that makes you proud every single day. That's what's going to sustain you, whether you're having difficulties on your own, whether people don't want to talk to you, whether the team is losing. And it could be an article, it could be a podcast, it could be an interview or someone you reached out to and developed a source, or whatever it might be. A good tweet, hell, if it's a bad day. Do one thing that's you're proud of. That's my goal. That's what I'm doing. But if I'm the smart ass of Boston media content, so be it. All right, last question. Carlos, hey, Andrew, if you had to list the team's positional needs, what would be your top 5 most important needs in order? Which positions would you like to see addressed in free agency and which in the draft? Thank you. Well, Carlos, it sounds like, and I know, Carlos, we've met in person multiple times, but it sounds like that opening rant was for you, my friend. You need to enjoy the wins. I know you're in the Bay Area, and it's far away from your football team that you get up early to watch and often lose, but you got to enjoy the wins, man. I don't have definitive draft and free agency answers for you just yet because, I mean, hell, as we've seen the last 2-3 months, guys like Brandon Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb, who were supposed to hit free agency, have since been re-upped. But I would tell you the positions that if I could snap my finger and upgrade right now for the Patriots in one way or another, it would be offensive tackle, receiver, edge rusher, defensive tackle, and then this is tough because it's pending Jabril Pepper situation because he's got a long-term deal now, safety or linebacker. And both of those are very close. If you wanted to bump one of those to number 4 and take defensive tackle out of there, I'd say, okay, enjoy Eric Johnson, Jaquelin Roy, but they're in a tier below the top 3 I listed there. Offensive tackle still number 1 for me. Receiver, and then edge rusher. Like they need to get more pressure. They need better pass protection. They need better pass catchers. But that's for the future. For now, the Patriots are 2-6. You and I have made it through another Film Monday episode. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, you know what I'm going to ask you. It's the same thing everyone asks on a podcast. 5 stars, please. Apples or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a rating or review. The feedback is always welcome. And again, if you're international, email me, Callahan, Callahan, at bostonherald.com. We will have a guest later this week to preview Pats Titans. I will not be at that game down in Tennessee. I have, I'll just say it. I am officiating my 3rd wedding for a very, very close friend of mine on Saturday. My sister is also due with her first child. So I don't think the next time we chat, I will be an uncle. I don't think you asked for that information. This is what we share in the 53rd minute, whatever, of a podcast. So we'll be in touch later this week. After that, I'd expect another Film Monday after Pat Titans, but we will have stories, no travel tales, just like this week. But we'll have a lot more soon coming for you on Pat's Interference. Thank you as always. We'll catch you later.